Morning, everybody. It's a kind of a gloomy morning here in Springdale, Arkansas, and but it's a perfect day to be inside. It's the perfect time to be inside making art. So anyway, today I wanted to show you, and I wanted to talk about one of my favorite collage artists. Her name is Hannah Höch. She's a German artist, and so what I'd like to do is show you some of her work, and then I'm going to make a collage based on kind of the things that she uses to make her collages. She's not alive anymore. She was a famous artist during the First World War, part of what was called the Dada movement, which was a art movement that kind of revolted against the war and against what the war stood for. It was a revolt against traditional beliefs. And the Dadaists felt that art should have no boundaries or restrictions, and that it could be whimsical and playful, which speaks to me because that's what I like my art to be, whimsical and playful. So Hannah Höch was very instrumental in what is called photomontage. This wasn't really done until, you know, before the First World War, probably too, because cameras didn't come into being until later. But so anyway, so what she did, she worked for a magazine. She worked for two magazines, and what she did is she started taking pictures from these magazines and putting them together in unusual ways to try to make a statement against the war, against the the government, and just trying to stretch the boundaries of art. And so her images are a little startling, but very interesting, very thought provoking, and very fun to look at, I think. So I want to start by showing you a few of hers. She uses a lot of faces and she plays a lot on facial elements, taking the nose of one picture and putting it on the face of another and things like that. So anyway, let me show you some of her. She was actually very instrumental in this whole photo montage movement, and a lot of artists began using this same idea of cutting out pictures to create collage uh, based on her art. So she's a very important person in art history, and she's also an important woman in art history. You don't hear a lot about the women that were also creating art during all these times when these famous male artists were creating. And so it's nice to see a woman who was making it as an artist at this time. So anyway, let's get into it. This is one of her pieces that I really love because it does feel very whimsical. You have the dancer's legs hanging down. You have the girl with the nose from another picture. This is like a little fairy person, but this is an African mask, a photograph of that. So I really like this. And the one that I'm going to do today is going to be based on this one, this sort of thing. This is another one where she takes legs of some of the fashion magazines and the fashion photographs in the magazines and kind of creates faces on the legs. You can see it. There's a cobblestone street that they're standing on, and this is how she just takes these elements and makes unusual characters out of them. And then this one also is a pretty good example of her work where she takes the eyes and the faces of different people in these magazines and couples them with interesting, in this case, fashion, and stuff. So her name is Hannah Höch, and she's just, I think she's an extraordinary collage artist that was way ahead of her time and who created something that now a lot of artists, myself included, use as inspiration to make. their art. So to that end, we're going to get started. It's very difficult to kind of show the collage process in its entirety because it really does start with just a stack of magazines. And it starts with just going through them and pulling pictures that you think might work. In this case, for instance, I pulled this girl thinking that she's got her eyes closed. That might be kind of an interesting thing to take. And so I'll just cut out her eye because we might want to use this later on. So I just go around it with my knife and cut it out. And there we have a closed eye that we can use for later on. I've also pre-cut out some stuff just to go ahead and be able to put it together so you can see how I put it together. One, this is a vintage photograph of this girl. See if you can see her pretty good, you know. And I'm thinking of using this beach theme, this picture of that looks like the beach. This is just paper you can get at Hobby Lobby. Is for scrapbooking. But a lot of times I'll buy these and then I'll paint over them and use them in collage, or I just use them as they are. Another thing I wanted to use, here's a head that I thought might be kind of cool to put on our girl. And I found this really cute guy in one of these magazines who is holding an umbrella. So I cut him out of the magazine and I like him that way, but I also thought, you know what? I think I'd like him to be black and white. Because in Hannah Höch, if you'll notice in her, she uses a lot of black and white with color. And I tend to do that too. I like the putting those two things together. And then I've got an eye, you know. I've got some other things that I have cut out. This is some legs. She had those legs dangling down. I don't know if I want to use that or not. I've got other eyes. I cut out big faces to start with to put on things. I've got little bodies that I have cut out that you can put the big face on. Also, I've cut out some type, some text. I really like this because it feels like it looks handwritten, you know? And then sometimes I'll just do the whole girl, and then it might be that I want to put, you know, that over it, or you know, you just keep on going, you know. So anyway, the first thing I want to do is I also have this paper that I'm thinking about using. I just painted this, and it kind of looks like sun, sky. I don't know. I'm going to look at both of them up against these cutouts before I actually paste them on. So the first thing that I will do is cut this guy out in black and white. And I just use my knife, just go around him, move everybody around because he's gonna spin. The paper will spin. So anyway, just go around. To me, this is the zen part of collage. I might spend an hour or two just cutting out pictures because it is very calming and quiet. A lot of times I have music on in the studio, um, depending on the mood that I'm in. Today I wanted to make sure you could hear me really good, so I didn't turn on any music. I have a huge playlist on Pandora of radio stations that I've created. So we just go around his body. I put a new blade in this yesterday. Usually I start, when I get started, I put a new, that's like the first thing, one of the first things I do is put a new blade in. But I didn't do that much cutting yesterday, so I thought, you know what? I'm getting low on blades. I need to order some more. It's not like this kid. He's got to hat on, little ball cap. He's wearing his mask, which I think is really relevant for now. I just keep turning the paper because you want to be much better. You always be cutting down on your object. This is printer paper, so it's okay to cut on. It's got a little bit of tooth. Because the handle or the rod that the umbrella is on is very skinny, I usually go a little bit outside of it, the lines on that one, because I have torn so many times little thin things, whether it's a little branch or excuse me, some other string, rope, leg, sometimes really skinny. And this was from a magazine, and it was at the very top of the page. So this umbrella has a flat top. And sometimes when I do that, I put it on the top of the page of what I'm working on, so that then it kind of looks like it's going off the page. I like that a lot. Cutting, almost there. Sometimes I forget where I started, and I have to pull up the paper and see. You know, I'm like, oh, okay. We're at his hand, the top of his hand on this side. Cutting. I like taking Fridays off from my regular job of writing copy, because by the time Friday rolls around, my brain is pretty tired of writing. It needs to change positions or courses. Okay, that should have it. Now we'll see if he comes out there. Okay, so gotta be very careful, especially with this umbrella. There we go. There he comes out of the paper. And what I'll do, since this is such a cool shape, I'll keep this. And then I'll use this, because even showing the grid of my mat underneath of it looks pretty cool. So that's a very recognizable shape. So I will keep this for a future collage. You got to be very careful with those or you'll tear them. Okay, so now we have our black and white. I can put the knife away. We have our black and white guy. There's a few little, bring the knife back, there's a few little places that show the white paper, so I'll just give him a trim. And this is another reason why you want to use a really, really sharp knife, because this is where you can do a lot of damage with a dull blade and make it very raggedy on the ends or whatever. Yeah, see, just get that off. Just trim them up. Trim them up a little bit, so that all you see is him and not the white edging of the paper. Yeah, that's good enough, I think. Around his whole mask, maybe. Okay, so there's him. Now, remember I told you I had two pieces of paper. Now this one is the one I painted. And what I'm thinking is I have this girl, this might not be wide enough, but I have this girl and she's like laying on the beach. This is what I'm thinking anyway. I like coming up with little stories for these things. And he is her guy who's going to keep the sun out of her eyes. Instead of having one of those that you stick in the sand, she's actually got a guy who's going to do it. So then we're going to put this head, because that's the Hannah Höch thing. You know, let's put big old head on a little tiny body. Put it so that it almost looks like she's got a neck. And then it's like I've got these eyes. First, I've got this big one, which is a very Hannah Höch kind of look. When I kind of like that because she's, she's at the beach, she's looking at people, you know. So that's kind of cool. Then I have the sleeping eye I just did. Now when we go to the beach, we lay back and we go to sleep. To me, this looks a little too natural. You know what I mean? It looks a little too real. So instead, I think I'm gonna use this one, the big eye, because that's when you get that abstract look, like Picasso, where he did on the side of the head, he would have the eye, both eyes actually. So I kind of like the look of that. I like this in the background, but I want to see what it looks like on my other piece of paper, on my beach paper. So I'm just gonna try to get them on there. Ah, now she really looks like she's at the beach. The surf's coming in. Hi. And he looks like he's. So I kind of like that. I like that because this makes it look like they're actually at the beach. And it's also a little out of scale. They must be very tiny people to have the surf be so big. So I think that's the one I'm gonna do. I think I like that better. And I like this space too. So let me show it to you up close. See what you think. Whoops. So so that is my girl at the beach with her own little cabana guy. So now we want to stick them down. And so what I do is I just take some scrap paper and some glue stick, get the top off. And I think what I'm going to do is do him first. And this is where you have to be so careful with this glue stick. And that's why I like using these little small ones, or I will tear that umbrella handle on it. Oh, I just jinxed myself, I'm afraid. Maybe not. If not, I've always got the other one that's in color. But I really want to use it. And I can always make another black and white print of this guy. So we're just going to be super duper careful. Whoops, be careful. Once it sticks, man, sometimes it sticks to the glue stick, and when you pull it up, rip. This paper at least is not as bad as the old vintage magazines that I use. Those are very fragile. I almost have to use a tweezer. Okay, so we want to make sure before I put this on, I like to line up my paper, make sure it's getting straight. And then we're going to put him right there. Down. Now we're going to take the brayer. See, it starts to curl. Be very careful. And then I just gently start moving the brayer over it. Out of the way. Some good strokes. So now he's all in place. So now before I put the eye and the head on, I want to place her. And I kind of want it to be, she'll be lined up with him. And I want to make sure that I can fit everything on, that there'll be plenty of room, and there is. So I just want to keep this in mind. Sometimes I'll take a pencil and I'll make a little mark of where I'm going to put them, but I think in this case, I will just eyeball it. So then we want to put some, and the paper that I use to glue on, a lot of times just when I print something out for work and then I don't need it anymore, I don't want to throw it away, so I just use it as the paper that I use to glue on. Because I go outside of the actual picture to glue on, and it'll get glue all over it. So now we just want to place her. I think I'm going to line her elbow up with his foot so that she's a little bit forward from him. And I kept the shadow. See, kept the little shadow on her to make her look grounded and make it look real. So there we have it, which is kind of a cute little collage all by itself. But we're after that Dada. We want to do the Dada style, and so we want it to be big head, big eye, everything out of proportion. So like this is not your normal seascape scene of a girl laying on the beach. This is a little different. So now we've got her head, and this girl has a big old neck, and so we want to place it so that it actually looks kind of like that's okay. That's where her neck would be. I like that. I don't know. Maybe we'll have her look down a little bit. Down. Good thing. So there we go. So now he's sort of standing a little bit behind her, and so now she's looking chill. The thing too about the using this kind of style is that it helps you um, uh, make sure it's more of an original than just using images that have been used other places. So you actually really are creating something new out of several different things. We're going to put this, and I'll place that like that so that I can just kind of move it around if I want. I think that's good. So there you go. We got our bathing beauty at the shore at the beach. She's got her cabana boy and giving her a little bit of shade, and the surf's coming in. Her feet are kind of look like they're in the sand a little bit. So that's one for Hannah Höch. I have another one that's kind of going to be a little quickie. I have already cut her out, and I just thought it might be fun if just for you to see another one, kind of quick. Um, and so this is the quick one. I'm going to use these shapes. I started with a. I'll start this with a hand, and we'll have. Whoops, we want the foot behind her sitting in this hand. And then she's going to have the big head. So we need to make sure she fits on the page where to put that hand. And then she's going to have two eyes, two big eyes. Okay, so I just needed to see where to put this hand first. Now, like before, I line up the paper. Well, let me get these off the edge. Line up the paper. So you can see it. So I'm going to put that hand right there in the middle. And this one, I've cut the hand out, but I also tore the page to get it out, to get the big picture, because this is just part of the actual hand that was in the magazine. I'm going to put that right down there. And I left that torn part. I really kind of like that torn edge right there. So I'll do that a lot too. I'll leave the tears because it makes it look like a part of a sleeve or something. I don't know. I really like that. Now, because I just put this down and I want to slip her underneath it so that it actually looks like the hand is holding it, I'm going to raise this up with my knife because I want to slip her underneath this to make it look like she's sitting in this hand. So you'd have to have some of the front of the hand showing over her. Now this, she's from an old magazine, so I got to be so careful with the glue on her because this is the kind of paper that will definitely tear. Paper when it ages, especially since this is paper is old paper full of acids and the acids, after a while, they yellow and deteriorate the paper and make it really, really fragile. So I gotta be so careful. She doesn't have too many, she doesn't have any little small parts, but still, just handling it is. So what I want to do with her is I want to slide her underneath this hand. This is tricky. So that she actually looks like, I have to move her. This is the good thing about using the glue stick, is that it allows you to move. So now it looks like she's actually sitting in that hand. See? Give you a close up of that one. See, it looks like she's just nestled right in there. I like that. So now we're going to add, and the Dada movement, it's not one you hear about very much. Everybody hears about the Impressionist movement and the Baroque movement and the Renaissance and stuff like that. And this, you have to keep in mind, was World War One. So this was 1914, 1916 was the movement. So then we're going to place it on her neck. So that actually looks like it belongs there. And that's what art is. It's just an evolution of new artists coming in and not wanting to do traditional things. And so they play around with stuff and say, you know what? Let's try this. I'm gonna try this. And the bad thing for Hannah is that she was in Berlin during the World War One and World War Two, and her art was designated to be degenerate art by the Nazis. So she wasn't able to even create art, let alone show it, because of the fear of the Nazis. They already had her name on the list, so to speak. So she was in fear because even though she wasn't Jewish, she was an artist and she wasn't following the kind of art that Hitler liked. I'm gonna give her a big old eye. I think I might, if I can, turn it just a hair. Yeah. Then we're gonna give her another eye. So she had to wait through that whole period, that whole World War II, before she could begin creating and showing her art again. She was also in Berlin the only woman in her Dada group of contemporaries. And they didn't always allow her to show in the shows that they were in because she was a woman. And I think that's a lot of the reason why she does these females that are odd, strange, and big eyes. Like, look at me, you know, I'm important too. So there we go. That's the second one, based on Hannah Höch. I really like this one a lot. I like this one so much. So anyway, so there you have it. I hope you've enjoyed watching, and I hope you've enjoyed learning a little art history about one of my favorite collage artists. There's more to come. So keep checking in and keep watching, and I will see you next Friday. Have a great weekend and a great next week, and happy holidays. Bye.